Okay, so when we open NetBeans, this is what it looks like. And remember, like we were saying in class on Wednesday, what we want to do if we're going to create a new program, rather than selecting a new file, we're going to create a new folder because we are going to be creating a lot of files when we create a new program. So here in this first dialog box that pops up, we're going to select the pre-selected option that is at the top and then Java application on the right, and we're going to say next. Once that we click on next, we're going to give this project a name, and the project name is normally, in this case, is going to be your last name, followed by practice with me 1, PWM1. And then we want to make sure that the group ID is the correct one that you have selected when you set up your NetBeans 12. At this point, we click on Finish, and it's going to create the project for us here, and we're not ready to go yet. So we need to click on the top option, your last name followed by PWM1, and then we're going to right click so we see the commands, and we're going to click on new, and in my case I see Java main class. If you don't see Java main class here, you would click on other here, and you're going to say you're going to scroll down until you find, come on, until you find Java main class here. And here you make sure that the name is correct. I have my last name followed by practice with me PWM1. So at this point we say next, and when we're here it's a new main, so we're going to call it your last name followed by practice with me, PWM1. And don't forget, package needs to be selected here from the arrow. So this blank text box, you click on the arrow and you find the name that you have set up previously. At this point, we click on Finish, and yes, now we're going to be ready to code. If you remember, what I was telling you the other day is that I have set up my environment so the font is larger, and if you wanted to change your font, you go to Tools and Options at the end, and then here you find the font, and all you have to do is click on this ellipsis. So in order for you to see my screen, I have changed this to boldface, so well, obviously, so the text is thicker, and then I have increased the font size to 24. Personally, I think if I were just working in my own computer, I would choose a much smaller font. I would probably not go larger than 14 if I was working by myself. But for the projection purpose, I enlarge it. So this is how we do it. And we click on OK, and please remember, doing so, it only changes the font for this area. So we have this comment area. So the block comment at the top, we're going to change it. So we say this program is used to practice output to the screen following the instructor, and then you press enter. It doesn't wrap around by itself. The instructor practice with me video. All right, so we're going to leave it at that. You are going to leave the author, but we don't need such such an amount of space taken over by comments. So you can backspace this block comment, and you can backspace this asterisk here. So, and actually, yeah, this is enough. And then public class, here is the name of the file that you have created. So we don't need the comments are there, so you can bunch this up together so you have the two headers. Remember, you do not want to accidentally delete either one of these two open and close brackets that are given to us. So we write our code replacing this comment line. So if you remember, there are two types of comments that we know so far. The block comment starts with slash asterisk and ends with asterisk slash, and the single line comment is set up by using double slash, meaning that if I go to the next line, then this is no longer a comment. I know whether something is a comment or not because it's grayed out. So to code application logic here, so this comment is telling us developers that here is where we type our program. We do not need this comment, but I'm concerned that we can accidentally delete those curly braces that they need to remain present. So I press enter a few times, and then I write my code right below the header. So I align the cursor below the P, I press tab, and here is where we can produce output to the screen. So we're going to do a comment line here, 2 slashes, output. So what we're going to be doing is output to screen using quotations string literals. Okay, so this is what we're going to practice. So we saw that, okay, so this is a single line comment. So if I press enter, the cursor aligns to the comment, and now I can write my output to the screen. So system with uppercase S, system.out.println, and then we did this aloha from Aloha Tower. And then we have the syntax error there with the squiggly red line because I haven't typed in a semicolon at the end. Once that I insert the semicolon at the end, this is a line of code that is acceptable. We did this, and I have a syntax error there for println, so don't make that mistake. So we can make this run and make sure that we're on the right track. And we know that the output should be displayed on this bottom area of the screen. Let's see if that shows up. It looks like this is the output screen. If you don't see your output screen, what you do is go to Window and you click on Output, and it should show up at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so we're going to build this program and see if we have any syntax errors. So the output to the screen is working because it's showing me the activities that are happening behind the scene, and it's telling me that the build was successful. So I do not have any syntax errors. I may accidentally have logic errors, but it's a one line of code, so it should be okay. So when we click on the run button, which is the green button, we get this dialog box. We accept it, and things will happen in the background, and eventually the output will show up. So right above build success is this Aloha from Aloha Tower. So that's the output to the screen. Okay, so what I want you to understand, and this is building on from what we were doing, is that we can have many different lines of code, and the lines of code will happen one at a time. So for example, I'm going to copy this and paste it. So you can use copy and paste just like in any other environment. Control C would copy it, and you go to the next line, and when you go Control V, it inserts it. Now, or Command C and Command V if you're in Apple computers. Now, we want this text to be aligned, so we do not want to have this jaggedy looking lines of code. So what we want to do is put the cursor in front of the second line and press Tab as many times as necessary to have it aligned. So now I have two output to the screen statements using println. So let's practice this. We're going to run it, and it's going to compile it and run it. And if you want to see the screen, you can drag it so you see more of the output. And you see that Aloha from Aloha Tower is showing up twice on the screen. Why do I see it twice? Well, because I have the same line of code twice on the screen. So println displayed Aloha from Aloha Tower. The cursor went to the next line, and this second output statement was displayed below. We can, so that means that I can break up a line of code. So let's do this, Control V, and then what we can say is Aloha Tower, Aloha from on the first line of code, and then on the second line of code we can edit it so it reads Aloha Tower. So we have on the first line of output to the screen Aloha from, and in the second one Aloha Tower. So what this is going to do is that it's going to display Aloha from on the first line, Aloha Tower on the next line, and then in the next line we're going to see the full sentence. Let's see that. Let's run it. Okay, see? So that's how I broke up Aloha from, Aloha Tower is on the next line, and then the whole sentence that is in a separate output statement appears below. All right, so that's working. So far, so good. All right, now, besides the println method, we have a different method that is the print method. So Aloha from, Aloha Tower, and then I'm going to say Control V, and I'm going to change print to print, println to print, and I'm going to have the full-on sentence Aloha from Aloha Tower. So far we were using println, and I was telling you it displays the output and then the cursor goes to the next line. Now let's see what happens with this print statement. So we have 4 lines of code. Let's see how many output lines we see on the screen. I'm going to run it, and you guys can do this as I'm doing it. So you may want to pause the video, code, and run it and see what happens. So notice what happens. Aloha from, next line, Aloha Tower, and then I have only one line, Aloha from Aloha Tower, Aloha from Aloha Tower on the same line. What this means is that this first greeting, Aloha from Aloha Tower, that is a full sentence, that I coded using the method named print, left the cursor next to tower, and then the next output statement happened right next to it. So rather than seeing 4 lines of output, I see 3 lines of output, even though I have 4 lines of code. So see, this line of code that reads print shows displays Aloha from Aloha Tower. The cursor will stay at the end of that output, and then the next output will happen next to it. To make it look a little more clear, what we can do is add a hyphen or a space. So I'm going to use a space, a hyphen, and a space in front of the next line. So let's see what happens when I run it like this. Okay, see? So Aloha from, next line, Aloha Tower, next line, Aloha from Aloha Tower. It stays there, and then space, hyphen, space, Aloha from Aloha Tower is displayed. So hopefully this explains the difference between print and println. Let's do this, and you will take a screenshot of this next exercise. Okay, so we have 4 lines of output. Let's make them all print statements. So get rid of line. Only leave system.out.println line for the last one, and we do that so the build success green output message is separate from our output. So let's say aloha, comma, space, greetings from Hawaii, period, space, my name is, space, and then I'm going to spell out my first name. You folks spell your own name. So we don't need space because I put a space in the previous one. So I have 4 lines of code. The first 3 use the print method. The last one use the println method. So system.out.print, as I told you, will display whatever is in quotation marks and leave the cursor waiting for the next output. So you would have what I think is going to happen, and I know it's going to happen, aloha, comma, space. Then in the same line, we're going to see greetings from Hawaii. And on the same line, we're going to see my name is. And on the same line, we're going to see your name. And then the cursor goes to the next line for the purpose of having to differentiate that green output statement, the green success statement. So let's run this, and it's going to compile and run it. I'm going to make my output larger. Notice what happens. Aloha, greetings from Hawaii. My name is Gabriela. So I have 4 lines of code, but only 1 output line. And I did the last one as print line, so the cursor goes to the next line, and this separation appears on the next line. If we use print, then all these hyphens will appear next to your name, and it will look goofy. So this is the output the program has produced in 1 line of code, in 1 output state, in 1 line on the output screen, even though we have 4 lines of code. So what I want you to do is get rid of this extra space that we have here, but do not delete the brackets. And here we have extra space, so here you can delete that extra space. So we want to have this open bracket that closes here at the end, this open bracket that closes here after the last executable statement. We want to have this message here. We're doing output to screen using string literals in print and print line methods. We don't need to use those. So here is the output. After you run it, what you want to do is bring the screen up. Did I accidentally? What happened? Okay, so I wanted to make sure I didn't delete this. These 2 need to be there. So now I want to leave those on the screen, move this up, and then what we want to do is, for this case, I would like you to scroll up so we see this. Execution, Maven, plugin, da 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 da, and then this output statement that it produced and then as much as possible here. So once that you have the screen like this, take a screenshot of this. If you're working in Apple, you can leave it hanging on your desktop. If you're working in Windows, you need to take the screenshot and you need to open a Word document to paste the screen. Otherwise, you will lose it when you take another screenshot. So we can edit all the information at the top later, but this is practice with me number 1 and exercise 1. We are doing print and print line methods using string literals. That's what we're doing. So paste your screen, and now we move on to the next exercise. Rather than starting a new program, you can continue to edit this file. And something that I was teaching in class the other day is that we can have variables and messages. So a lot of times we are going to declare string variables. So declaring string variables and displaying their values. Okay, so what we need to do is declare a variable. So it's going to be string data type, so we spell string. Then the name of the variable, let's say that is your name or school, equals, and then it's going to be HPU, okay? And then we want to display a message using that value in the school name. So we're going to do system.out.print open parentheses, and let's say school, and then let's say semicolon, and then system.out.print line, so it's going to be print line, and we're going, instead of displaying HPU, what we want to do is display is the school attending. We need to close quotation marks. So when we edit, it doesn't give us all the quotation marks and all the semicolons automatically. And I noticed that I have a squiggy red line on the first line of code, which is because I forgot to add the semicolon. So here we have a variable declaration. So we're going to put a single line comment declaring a variable named school. And we are assigning the value HPU in it. So the next line displays the name of the school because it's referencing the variable named school. So what the computer does is it goes to memory, it says, okay, I have a variable named school. What's the value stored in it? It's HPU. So it's going to display HPU. How is it going to display HPU? It's going to display HPU and the cursor is going to stay next to the name of the school because we are displaying HPU by using the method named print. So the cursor will wait there and the next output statement will show up right next to HPU. And we are saying, is the school I'm attending? Or is the name of the school I'm attending. So this is going to display the string. This is a string literal, and the string literal is going to show up next to the message or the text that is stored in the variable name school. So let's run this. and it says it's successful, but I scroll accidentally. So see, it displays HPU, the cursor stays there, and because I remember to put a blank space in front of S, it gives the is it keeps the gap in between the words. Otherwise, it will be all bunched up together. Is the name of the school I'm attending. All right, so that one worked. So with your comments and spelling correctly, declaring a variable named school, uh, having these comments set up, take this screenshot. This is exercise 2. We are using a string variable. So take a screenshot, put it in a Word document, and this is exercise 2. So we are displaying the contents of a variable named school next to a string literal. Okay, so insert that. All right, so that's work. All right, those are very nice things that we have available. If we wanted to combine the two into one line of code, then this is how we would do it. I don't know if this is recording everything. Great. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to combine these two lines of code into one. So if I wanted to display the content of a variable and a string literal, and I want to put them together on the same line of code, then I need to join them together. So to join them together, you would think that, okay, so it's going to be easier to edit this. So I'm going to grab the school variable name, and I'm going to get rid of this line of code. And we would think that we would just plug this in front of the string literal. Now this, the way it's spelled out, is not going to work out. Why is that? Because in Java, if we want to combine the displaying things that are stored in different variables or something that is stored in one variable and a string literal, I need to separate those two with the plus sign. The plus sign, when it's used in an output statement, is called concatenator. So rather than the addition symbol, the plus symbol is concatenating the content of school, the variable name school, and the string literal that is in quotation marks. So the plus symbol is concatenating, the operation is concatenation, and the plus symbol is a concatenator. So that's what we're doing. Let's see what happens. So the plus can be used to put together the content of two variables or to combine a variable content with a string literal. So let's run this. And you see that HPU is the name of the school I'm attending. It's all together. So you have HPU that is coming from the variable name school, and you have the string literal is the name of the school I'm attending from the string literal that you have here after the plus. So this is working very nicely for us, and this is another way in which you can combine the content of a variable with a string literal. So Let's take a screenshot of this. Print screen and put it in a Word document. And this is your exercise 3. And what we're doing is concatenating, so which would be similar to saying combining the content of a variable and a string literal in a in an output statement. Okay, so we paste that screenshot and we move on to the next thing. So this works nicely, and we can have different types of data type. So we may have a grade. So we may have, rather than a string, we may have an integer, int, and the name of the variable may be points, and maybe the points is 98. When we want to assign a value to a variable that is numeric, we do not use quotation marks around it. Quotations is used only for strings. Okay, so let's say that we want to display my grade is 98. So I scored. So let's say we're going to say I scored 98 points. So you can concatenate multiple things. Plus, rather than 98, we want to say points. Plus, I score points. So I need the string points. Okay, so this is going to display I scored 98 points. So what we're doing is concatenating an integer variable and string literals. Okay, so this is working very nicely for us. Let's see when we run it what happens. Okay, so we see I score is a string literal, 98 is received from the points variable, and then the string literal points is displayed. So we are concatenating a string literal with the variable value that is numeric with another string literal. So that's working very nicely for us. Sometimes we have multiple variables. So let's say that you have a string, which is the course name, and this is going to be CSCI 1911. Okay, so rather than saying I score points, we're going to say I score, we want to see 98 in n, and then a space, and then we want to say the course, so plus, and then we can say course. So you see where this is going, right? So points is going to be replaced by 98, and course is going to be replaced by CSCI 1911. When we run this, we're going to see that output to the screen. So you see I scored 98 in CSCI 1911. So the 98 is the value that is stored in the variable name points, because I referenced that variable in the output statement. And then CSCI 1911 is the string literal that is stored in the variable name course, and it shows up because I'm referencing that variable name in the output statement. So this is working nicely for us, and we're going to take a screenshot and paste it in our document. Screenshot, and I'm going to paste it in my Word document. So this is exercise 4, and we're going to say concatenating concatenating a numeric variable with a string variable and a couple of string literals, and we paste the screen. All right, so back to my project. We are going to now we're going to see that we can have multiple numeric variables. So we can say something points 98 int exam equals 100. And we have still the CSCI 1911 string. So I score points and plus exam plus n and the course. So now you know that points is going to be replaced by 98, exam is going to be replaced by 100, course is going to be replaced by the string literal CSCI 1911. Let's see how that works. You can start predicting what you're going to see, right? So here you see I score in the output screen, you see I score 98 and 100 in CSCI 1911. So this is working wonderful for us. Okay, so let's say that we change this a little bit. So let's say that we're going to say println. So let's say that we want to see the 100 and the 98. So let's say that we say points plus exam, and we want to see what happens. Okay. Now remember, points and exam are integers. So let's see what happens when we try to display the values stored in these two variables. I'm going to run this. Okay, we would expect to see 98 next to 100, and we see 198. The reason for this is because at this point the plus symbol is behaving as a mathematical operator rather than a concatenator. So it's adding the values together. So let's take a screenshot of this and saying, making a note to ourselves to watch out. So we're declaring two integer variables. And plus adds the values together rather than concatenating them. And the reason for that is because the variables are integers. So once that you have this output screen, take a screenshot and paste it in your Word document. And I'm going to, this is exercise number 5. So this is the way it works. So because it works this way, we need to find a way to fix it. And we have a way to fix it. So what we need to do is we need to add a space in between. And once that you add a space between the two variables, you are making it snap out of the numeric calculation. So you're combining a numeric value and a string literal and a numeric value by increasing that space, or you can put a hyphen, or you can say and, okay, and then you are making it snap out. It cannot do the mathematical calculation. It will display the number, the text, and the number. So we don't need to put the solution. I trust that you will remember that. Okay. All right. Well, let's make that note. So take a screenshot of this screenshot and put it in a Word document. Sorry for changing my mind. Um, so it's still exercise 5, and we say this is how we solve the issue if we would like to see the two values rather than adding them. Okay, so another data type that we have available in Java is called char. So char are great. So char um, grade, let's say it's an A. So if it is a char, we need to put it surrounded by single quotes. So let's say that we have char grade. It's an A. Char initial. So spell out your own initial. Mine is a G for Gabby. Single quote or apostrophe before and after. You know what? We don't need the course, so let's remove this variable so we don't get confused. So we're declaring two char variables, okay? So we're not declaring any variable names, cool. Note, char values need single quotes around, okay? So it's char, lowercase char, the name of the variable that you're selecting, equals, because you're assigning a value to it, and then the value that you're assigning is, it could be a single letter, a single symbol, or a single digit. Remember all the things that we have in the ASCII code table and the Unicode table. So we're going to choose an uppercase A for the letter grade, and your initial will be the first letter of your first name. So you assign those, and then you're going to display those. So let's display those next to each other. So grade plus, oopsie, plus initial. So we expect to see an A followed by a G in my program, and you will see an A followed by your initial. That's what we think is going to happen, and hint, hint, it may look slightly different. So let's run this. Okay, so rather than seeing the letters A and G, I see the value 136. So what that is the ASCII codes for those variables. So the ASCII code of uppercase so rather than adding the values, okay, so we need the same message. The plus adds the values together rather than concatenating them. So what values? Adds the ASCII codes. It adds the values of the ASCII codes, and it's ASCII, American Standard Coding for Information Interface. Or we could also say the Unicodes, because the letter A and the letter G, they have the same code for ASCII and Unicodes. So it adds the Unicodes together. If you remember, A has the numeric value 65. So the character A equals 65. So it means that the numeric value of G, it would be 136 minus 65, which is 71. Okay, so 65 plus 71 equals 136. So Java gets confused when we're dealing with characters. If we try to concatenate them, they're not going to give us the letters. It's going to give us the addition of the codes. So if we wanted them together, AG, we want them together, what we can do is add an empty character or an empty string and then the plus. So similar to before, but if we want it bunched up together, we just put an empty character or an empty string. So it can be quotation, quotation, or single quote, single quote. When I run this, now we see the letters A and G in the output. So please remember this, that when we display output to the screen and we're dealing with character variables, if we want to see the characters next to each other, we need to add an empty string and concatenate it so we separate the two. This will also snap out if we put a string literal in front of grade. So if I said, hello, here are my characters, colon, and then concatenate the rest, it's going to make it snap out of adding the variables together. So let's take a screenshot of this and add it in a Word document. And then what we are going to say is that this is exercise number 6. And we're going to say using char variables to display output, please recall that we need to separate characters with blank strings or any other string literal to avoid adding the codes together. Okay, so Control V, and you have your document with a screenshot for that. All right, one last topic. There's something that is called escape sequences. So we're going to, in this comment, we're going to say using escape sequences. Okay, so let's say that you have, let's just make all string variables. Name, string, last. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of this note here. Okay, Java is not liking the value A because we have it surrounded by single quotes, so that's for characters. If it's going to be a string, it needs to be in quotation marks. So spell out your first name here in quotation marks. So I'm going to spell out my name, and then for last, I'm going to spell out my last name in quotation marks. Okay, so the escape sequences can be used to cause output statements to do special things. So let's say that I want to use only a print line statement, and I want to spell out my name, my first and my last name, one below the other. So what I can do is separate those two variables So I can say name, and I want to go to the next line. So to force it to go to the next line, I can use an escape sequence that means go to the next line. So backslash n means send the cursor to a new line, go to a new line. So plus, and then last. So my claim is that this executable statement is going to display my name, go to the next line because of this escape sequence. All the escape sequences, they start with a backslash. So backslash n means go to the next line. And then the last name is going to be displayed on the next line. Let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so in this output screen, you see that my first name is in one line and my last name is on the next line. This is happening because after my name is displayed, I requested that the output statement send the cursor to the next line. So I went to the next line and Artigas was displayed. So let's take a screenshot of this, and this is part of the next exercise, which is exercise 7. And we're going to have multiple screenshots here for exercise 7. So exercise 7 is escape sequences. So the first, we're going to call it A, and we're going to say next line. And what it is the backslash n. And then insert the screenshot. And now we go to the program. So if instead of next backslash n, I use backslash t, let's see what happens. I'm going to run it, and rather than sending my last name to the next line, I see that my first and last names are separated by a large gap, so it means that a tab was inserted. So backslash t is used to insert tabs. So let's take a screenshot of this and put it in a Word document, and this is exercise B for exercise 7, and the escape sequence is backslash t. Print, go to the next line, go to the Word document and say B is tab. So it's backslash t, and inserted Control V, insert the screenshot. Okay, so let's say that what we want to do is display on the screen. We want to display on the screen the sentence, just a sentence. Backslash, so the backslash, so wait, quotation mark, oops, sorry, quotation mark, and we want backslash is the symbol for escape sequences. Okay, we have an issue there. Java doesn't like it. You know why? Because the backslash is the symbol for escape sequences, so it normally needs to be followed by a backslash. It needs to be followed by a letter that represents an escape sequence. So for example, backslash t or backslash n. So it's asking me, what letter do you want? Do you want an n? So now the problem is gone. Or t, and the problem is gone. But what we want to do is we want to see the backslash. So to see the backslash, we need to do backslash backslash. So what we're doing is escaping from the meaning of the backslash by inserting a backslash after the backslash. So rather than next line or tab, this sequence backslash backslash will display a single backslash to the screen. Let's see this happening, folks. So run it. Okay, so now you see one backslash is displayed, because I have two backslashes in my string literal. So it tells you backslash is the symbol for escape sequences. And let's say that you want to say A is for apple. So we want an output statement. So you want to see A is for apple. But let's say that you want apple in quotation marks. So look what's happening. It's getting confused. Okay, so A is for, and then I have apple in black, and then I have two quotation marks. What's happening here is that Java is doing the best that it can, and it thinks that we have that this is a string literal. Then it thinks that apple is a variable name, but it's not going to like it because we need to concatenate if it is a variable name. And then it thinks that we have an empty string literal. So whenever we want to display quotation marks, in this case surrounding the word apple, we need to put a backslash in front of the quotation mark. So backslash quotation mark and apple backslash quotation mark. So every quotation mark that is after a backslash is going to appear on the screen. So we're making the quotation mark snap out of the meaning of starting or ending a string literal. So let's run this. And you see A is for apple. Okay, now let's say that you want the A surrounded by single quotes. The single quote also has a special meaning. Now, just so it happens that this is going to work the way it is, but if you want it to be precise, then each single quote will have to have a backslash in front of it to be displayed on the screen. So this is the correct way to do it. So quotation mark starts the string literal, then you have backslash single quote to display the single quote, backslash single quote after the A to display the single quote. Then we continue with the string literal for, and then what we had before, backslash quotation for each quotation we want to see, and then we close the string literal with quotation mark. So we build this, and there you see backslash is the symbol for escape sequences. Single quote, a single quote is for apple in quotation marks. So there you have it. Those are the escape sequences we wanted to practice today. I have a feeling that I'm forgetting one, but we can cover that next class. So take a screenshot of this simple program and paste it in your Word document. This will be letter C for your last assignment. And what we're practicing is displaying backslash, quotation, and single quote on the screen. Require a backslash in front. And with that, go to insert your screenshot, save your file as a PDF, and post it in the assignment, which is in the folder Practice with Me from the course content. And this is Practice with Me number 1. So when you save it with that name, your last name followed by PMW. I believe this is number 1, but we'll double check. All right.